Hi, I'd like to speak to you today about a proposed IRB study on iron deficiency anemia in female vegans in the United States. First, before we get into the study though, I would like to cover a little bit of information on iron. Iron is a micromineral that's present in all cells of the body. Its role in the body is to carry oxygen to tissues from lungs in the form of hemoglobin. It assists with oxygen use and storage in muscles as myoglobin. It functions as a transport medium for electrons within the cell and is integral in enzyme reactions in many tissues. Iron can be found in the body in trace amounts at around 38 milligrams per kilogram of body weight in women. The recommended daily allowance of iron for women between the ages of 19 and 50 years is 18 milligrams. I'm going to focus on this age group because that's what we're going to be studying in our intervention. So, iron deficiency anemia is marked by diminished red blood cell production due to low iron stores in the body. In IDA, low iron levels are associated with anemia and the presence of small, pale red blood cells, and serum ferritin levels are a way to detect iron deficiency anemia, and values of less than 13 grams per deciliter do indicate iron deficiency anemia. Some symptoms of IDA include shortness of breath, fatigue, chest pain, heart problems, infections, and in children, it includes growth and developmental issues. Some signs, if you think you might be at risk for iron deficiency anemia, are pale or sallow skin, unexplained weakness, rapid heartbeat, a pounding in the ears, headache, pikaphasia, which is the craving or eating of non-food items such as clay or dirt and ice. You may have a sore or smooth tongue, and you may have brittle nails or hair loss. So, some vegetarian sources of iron are going to include some of these foods on this list: cooked beans, tofu, quinoa, etc. There is a difference between vegetarian sources of iron and animal sources of iron. The main source of iron in animal products is heme iron, and in plant foods, that is going to be non-heme iron. The problem with vegetarian diets isn't the lack of iron in the diet. A lot of vegetarians tend to get about the same amount of iron in the diet as non-vegetarians, but there are some nutrients in the vegetarian diet that can inhibit the absorption of iron. So, non-heme iron is absorbed at a rate of about 10% in the body, as compared to about 18% of iron found in animal sources. So, you can see the problem here with the vegetarian diet is really going to be finding strategies in order to cut down on some of those iron inhibiting nutrients. So one of those nutrients in the vegan diet that inhibits iron absorption is phytate. Phytates are salts of phytic acid and the storage form of phosphorus in some plant foods. Since phytate does block the absorption of some trace elements, including iron, it is oftentimes considered an anti-nutrient. Some plant foods that do contain phytates are nuts, seed, legumes, and whole grains. So these foods are very important in a vegan diet for getting many of your nutrients, including protein. So if you just completely cut these out of your diet, you're probably not going to meet your macronutrient needs and some other micronutrients. So the best way is to find some dietary strategies in order to help increase bioavailability of iron. So in a study that was carried out by Hallberg and colleagues, they tested the inhibitory effect of phytate on iron absorption. They used rolls to feed to the subjects, and then they tested the amount of iron that was inhibited by the phytates. And depending on the amount of phytate added to the roll, 2 milligrams of phytate inhibited absorption by 18%, 25 milligrams by 64%, and 250 milligrams by 82%. And just keep in mind that the daily intake of phytate in vegetarian women in North and Central America is around 1,250. The aims of the research study that we're proposing are to establish whether or not dietary strategies can be implemented in which iron absorption can be increased in a vegan diet. In order to achieve Aim 1, the study will include vegan women following a diet based on the meals created by Gibson and colleagues, which we'll take a look at in a couple slides from now. The strategies employed in the meals will reduce phytate consumption by decreasing some fiber intake and increasing iron absorption through enhancers such as vitamin C. The second aim is to assess serum ferritin levels of vegans eating a self-established diet as compared to vegans eating a diet provided by the researchers in which strategies are in place that increase iron absorption. So to achieve Aim 2, serum ferritin levels will be assessed pre- and post-intervention in both the control group and the intervention group. And the third aim is going to be to test the efficacy of the strategies of the meal plan that was put forth by Gibson and colleagues. And this aim will be addressed by implementing that diet in the intervention and testing serum ferritin levels in the control group, not in the control group, in the intervention group. Subjects included in this intervention will be vegans. We would like for them to have been vegan for at least a year prior. We're going to get the Boston Vegetarian Society to help us recruit some vegans for the study. They should be female and be between the ages of 19 and 50 years old. Exclusion criteria are going to be people who are already diagnosed with iron deficiency anemia, people who have serum ferritin levels less than 15 grams per deciliter, because that will indicate they are at risk for IDA. And we do not want to include menopausal women. They are outside of that group that is more at risk for IDA. We will use an experimental design. We will have a control group and an intervention group. We'll take 100 subjects and randomly assign them to one or the other. The intervention group will be provided a diet based on the dietary strategies established by Gibson and colleagues. That diet will be implemented through a meal delivery service. So we will provide those meals to all 50 of the subjects via the meal delivery service. That way it will be easy for them to maintain the dietary strategies that we've put forth in the meals. And then serum ferritin levels will be assessed pre- and post-intervention. And before we start the experiment, we'll have all participants fill out a validated food frequency questionnaire just to assess their diets and make sure that they are leading a vegan lifestyle, and to see what their iron consumption is pre-intervention. You can see here, this is the diet that's put forth by Gibson and colleagues. And some of the strategies included are increasing vitamin C consumption at meals containing iron. Vitamin C, whether it is natural or synthetic, when it is consumed at a meal that has non-heme foods, it is the most effective enhancer of non-heme iron absorption. Some other strategies are soaking beans, consuming sprouted whole grain cereals, legumes, yeast-leavened baking products. All of these things may reduce phytate content of a meal. And then also trying to cut down on some fibers, because that can also contribute to iron absorption, inhibit iron absorption in the diet. The only thing that we're planning to change here based on this diet is this is based on a vegetarian diet, so the milk products in the diet, the yogurt and the cheese and the milk, we will cut out and replace with vegan versions of these foods using plant milks and some vegan cheeses, as well as soy yogurt. Subjects in the intervention group will have a higher serum ferritin level than the control group after 1 month of consuming the intervention diet. This hypothesis will be tested by testing serum ferritin levels between the groups post-intervention, and this will assess whether there was a significant difference between the control and intervention. Statistical analysis with a t-test will be used, and if the p-value is calculated less than 0.05, then a statistical difference in the serum ferritin levels will be established, which will prove that the intervention does improve serum ferritin levels. This study that we're planning to implement is significant based on the fact that we're going to use a strictly vegan diet. A lot of interventions that have been employed previously have used vegetarian diets. We're also going to use dietary strategies instead of using supplements, or whether they be iron supplements or vitamin C supplements. And overall, as iron pertains to vegans and vegetarians, there are more studies needed in order to assess their iron status over long periods of time. It's thought that physical adaptations to lower iron consumption in a vegan diet seems likely, and although vegans tend to have lower stores of iron, they don't necessarily suffer from iron deficiency anemia at rates that are disproportionate to their omnivorous counterparts. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good evening.